Frozen in time for 5,000 years, an ancient creature has emerged from its icy tomb, perfectly preserved and ready to rewrite the history books. This incredible discovery has sent shockwaves through the scientific community, offering a tantalizing glimpse into a world long gone. Prepare to be awestruck as we uncover the secrets of this ancient being, frozen in a state of suspended animation for millennia.
The Cabogon. On April 28th of 1974, off the coast of Littleton, New Zealand, a Japanese fishing vessel, the 28th Kamparamaru, was out doing its thing, but this day would be unlike any other. At around 7 p.m., all 28 crew members, including Captain Kimura, spotted something massive in the water. Whatever it was, had a head that stuck out of the water, and even though they could only see the top of whatever this beast was, they could tell it was an absolute monster. The head alone was about 1.5 meters tall. The creature had these giant, spooky eyes on top, and some crew members thought they saw what looked like a second set of eyes, or maybe nostrils, right beneath. The texture was described as either rough and hairy or scaled with spikes. It was a bit like a gigantic spider head mixed with a sea monster. Captain Kimura even sketched the thing, and it later made headlines in the New Zealand Weekly magazine. Nearby, mysterious footprints were found on the beach. This beastie was soon linked to other cryptids in Japanese waters like the giant sea ghost, Umibazu, and the Antarctic Godzilla. More on him in a bit. But the Cabogon has to be one of the strangest sea cryptids ever reported. The colossal squid is believed to be the largest squid in terms of sheer mass. We're talking about a creature that can grow up to 39 to 46 feet long, and it's not just long, it's also built like a tank, unlike its more famous cousin, the giant squid, which are pretty incredible already. The colossal squid actually has hooks on its tentacles though, some swiveling, others three-pointed, and those hooks are sharp, designed to hold on to prey with this grip-like vice. The colossal squid's beak is the largest of any known squid, bigger than that of the giant squid, and its eyes are the biggest in the animal kingdom, with one specimen having eyes about 11 inches across. These creatures weren't found to actually exist until 1925, when 2 of its tentacles were found in a sperm whale's stomach. Sightings go way back though, but they were thought of the same way creatures like Nessie are, legends and myths. In 1802, a massive squid was spotted in Tasmania, way before anyone officially recognized the giant squid. Then in 1870, a huge squid carcass washed ashore in New Zealand, with locals calling it a tanewa. More sightings and washed up squid parts continued to pop up in the following decades. By 1924, just a year before the colossal squid was officially identified, another giant squid was spotted near Bluff, New Zealand. We know these colossal squids exist now, but we've never retrieved any massive sized carcasses, just ones on the smaller end of the scale. But somewhere deep in the waters off the coast of Antarctica, there are gargantuan squids, possibly even bigger than our current estimates.
Number 10, dinosaur. When it comes to big things, dinosaurs were pretty damn big. Scientists were able to uncover the fossilized remains of a new and unknown species of dinosaur underneath the ice sheets in Greenland. When the dinosaurs were alive, the Earth was a lot warmer and more tropical, these fossils becoming trapped under the ice when the climate changed into the Ice Age. The skull they found is thought to be a 2-legged plant-eating dinosaur of medium size, and they dubbed the new species Issy-Sinique. The dinosaur is believed to have grown to the size of 10 to 30 feet, and the skull they found is thought to be that of a younger dinosaur that had not fully grown yet. They used computer technology to create 3D scans of the head before sending the specimens to the Natural History Museum in Denmark, as they have sovereignty over the country of Greenland. It is the first known dinosaur to have been native to Greenland and is thought to come from the late Triassic period around 200 million years ago. Number 9, bison. The massive carcass of a bison known as a steppe bison was found by a gold mining family in Alaska way back in 1979. They were using a mining hose and were melting a frozen block of ice, effectively thawing out the creature that had become trapped inside. The bison species is from the Ice Age, and the body that they found is thought to be tens of thousands of years old. Once they were finally able to fully excavate the body, they found other things alongside it, including hair, insects, wood, and different plants. When the pelt of the animal reacted to the soil around it, it turned the body blue, and so the bison ended up being dubbed Blue Babe. Analysis of the body showed it had died 36,000 years ago, a result of being attacked by an Ice Age lion. The ice allowed the creature to be incredibly well preserved, scientists even being able to find pockets of blood in the body. Number 8. Cave bear. This specimen found on an island in the Arctic was a very unique discovery, said to be one of the first of its kind. Researchers found a well-preserved body of a cave bear that was around 40,000 years old. Cave bears would grow to be around 7 feet long and typically weighed over 1,000 pounds in their adulthood. Before this discovery was made, they only knew about the animal from skulls and bones, and had never found a specimen that was this fully preserved. The body that they found had all of its organs still, and even still had its nose on its face, paired with its terrifyingly massive sharp teeth. According to one of Russia's leading Ice Age experts, the discovery of the body was of world importance and is the first and only find of its kind. The body was found by a group of reindeer herders on the island and was then sent around to various scientists to study the life of the animal. Number 7. Horned lark. Alright, some of these creatures aren't that big, but they're still pretty interesting, and size doesn't matter anyways. In 2018, fossil hunters were in the northeastern part of Siberia, known as the Pole of Cold, and they were tunneling into the permafrost. Deep underground, they discovered the body of a bird thought to be around 46,000 years old, but it was incredibly well preserved, and scientists say that it looks like it could have only died a few days ago. Researchers believe that it is the ancestor of the horned lark bird and is the first of its kind to have ever been discovered. It is also said to be one of the best preserved specimens ever discovered, as it was almost completely intact and still had all of its parts. The ice age that took place is thought to have generated many new species who adapted, and this is one of them. Siberia is home to a lot of frozen discoveries due to its freezing cold temperatures, and who knows what else is sitting in the ice, just waiting to be found. Number 6. Wolf. The Pleistocene era, or Ice Age, lasted from about 2 million to 11,000 years ago, and many great extinct creatures we've discovered come from this era. One of these discoveries was the head of a massive Ice Age era wolf that was still snarling 40,000 years after it had died. It was found in a cold region of Russia and is one of the first full-sized frozen wolves ever to be discovered. They found it in the summer of 2018, and it was described as having mammoth-like fur, sharp fangs, and was between the ages of 2 and 4 when it passed away. Because only the head was discovered, it only gave small clues towards the evolution of wolves and how they have changed and adapted over the years, but researchers were still able to reconstruct the head using 3D models and get a solid understanding of what these Ice Age wolves looked like. In fact, the specimen was so well preserved that it even still had parts of its brain.
Kicking off the list at number 10, iceworms. Yeah, iceworms. Need I say any more right there? Iceworms, that's terrifying by themselves. I'm dodging these suckers all spring, now I gotta worry about winter too. Get out of town. I'm Canadian, we don't need iceworms, come on, we have ice in general, that's bad enough. The only time a worm lives its life in glacial ice is in, you guessed it, Alaska. Yeah, all these things are in Alaska, in case you didn't already know that. All my life I've seen worms shrivel up and fade away on the sidewalk. They just evaporate, it's so horrible. But I've never even seen a worm near ice. Is that even possible? Apparently so. They're supposed to run out of fuel and die off, but ice worms are like the Energizer Bunny. These things just keep going, even if they're frozen. Little Captain America worms. Should that icy temperature rise, however, above freezing, well, that's when it becomes slower and dies off the way that we see every worm go. You know, just in a horrible, gross way. Honestly, these things are super cool. I'm not a fan of worms, obviously, but scientifically, these guys are so alien. They're pretty cool. I had to kick off the list with them. Teach me your ways. I'm always so cold. Again, hate Canada. I'm just kidding, it's fine. Number 9, banana slugs. This one's pretty gross too, I'm not gonna lie. Get the gross ones out of the way right off the hop. Banana slugs get their name because of their yellow color. They are not yummy. They have nothing to do with bananas. They do not taste like bananas at all. Nothing like banana medicine. That one's pretty close. They're also quite large, these slugs, but the thing that really sets them apart here is that they have a single lung that's exposed. I know. As I said that, you probably went, ugh. Yeah, it's horrible. It's one of the worst things I've read. Alaskan banana slugs are dark green, so even creepier, dare I say, than the average. And these slugs need to stay wet at all times. I wanted to say that they stay, you know, something that starts with the letter M, but we don't like that word, apparently. This word would have been perfect for said organism. Moist. There, I said it. These slugs are also hermaphrodites. They have all the reproductive organs needed for the fun. Only after a mating season, they'll kind of black widow the other party. Yeah, nature's wild. Olivia, don't eat me. Thanks. Number 8, new whale species. You may be thinking, how does one miss a whale for this long? Aren't they insanely large? Haven't we found them all? I would hope. Well, when a 20-foot long whale washed up on the beach in Alaska, researchers studied it and came to the conclusion that this species of whale, specifically called the Baird's beaked whale, upon further investigation is part of an entirely new species of whale. Yep, we thought we knew what it was. Different. A new whale from 2014, and we didn't even know it for a couple years. This new discovery has darker flesh, and the dorsal fin was bigger and floppier. It was bigger and floppier. Imagine a scientist saying that. Yeah, it's bigger and floppier. They're like, great, heard. The only other whale with the same genetic code that can be studied was found in a nearby high school gymnasium. Yeah, not alive. It was the skeleton. It was just, you know, up there for morale, I guess. Nothing gets the kids going on the beep test than a skeleton above. Just a whale skeleton. Like they were in the Avengers and they just, I don't know. Where is this? Alaska? Wild. Next time you talk smack about your high school mascot, make sure it's not a rare fish that's previously undiscovered. Yeah, always take a look. Check yourself, Bradley. Stop making fun of your mascots. My mascot was a dragon. But not like a cool dragon though. He was like a lame dragon. I'll move on. Number 7, needle snout monster. This one comes from around 200 million years ago, so not that new. This fossil had been discovered recently, however. It was discovered back in 2011 on an island just a few feet above sea level, so it was almost pretty close to fading away forever. It looks like an ancient iguana almost. It's a marine reptile, Thwaites. It's a new discovery from that time. This thing was roaming around Alaska 200 million years ago. I used to think humans were born too late. This pointy-nosed dude has changed my mind, my friends. We love science. We love finding things late. It's the only intact Thwaites fossil ever discovered in North America, which is pretty sweet. Pat Druckenmiller, director of the University of Alaska Museum of the North, sounds like something from Game of Thrones, the Museum of the North. He really thinks this is a fascinating find, and rightfully so. The snout is pointed. It's literally razor sharp. This guy would have been an absolute menace back then. Thank God he's gone. Now instead we have to deal with these guys. Number 6, Nudibranchs. Yes, Nudibranchs. We love saying it. Go tell all your friends, hey, know what I learned about? Nudibranch. Nudibranch. These little things are so strange, I cannot wait to talk about them. These soft gastropod mollusks are too cool for their shell. Yeah, they're so fancy, they're just like, I'll just be naked forever, no problem. They show it all, no shame. They're fancy sea slugs, basically. Their colors have made them the subjects of many nicknames. Obviously, these have been baffling sailors for centuries. There's more to them than you'd think. They can smell and taste through their fingertips. What a feature. I can't tell if I would want this or never ever want this. What's cooking? That's horrible. I would eat things through my hands all the time. Oh my God. I'd steal treats from my friends' backpacks. There's over 3,000 types of these dudes all waiting to be explored on Alaska's ocean floor. If you want to get an up-close look yourself, just know they're quite good at absorbing toxins from predators and then storing them for later on. So tread lightly. Don't be poking anything. Watch out for colorful deep sea spaghetti. Always keep your eye open for deep sea spaghetti. You'll see them coming also. These things are giant and they look like they're from Avatar. You won't miss them. Kicking off the list at number 10, sea pigs. This list gets creepy and or crawly, but first we gotta ease into the Arctic Ocean. We gotta start off this haunting list with the sea pig. Look at this little guy. Okay, the pug of the ocean. He looks like a stress ball with feelings. What's going on with him? They look like something that would be microscopic, but really they're 6 inches long, wide, around, big, I don't know, they're pretty large. They stick together, and I mean that in a literal sense. Sea pigs will travel in large gatherings. They live in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean, so they're hard to find, really. Their mating routine is also still a mystery. We have no idea how they do it. And just by looking at them, we're like, no guesses, certainly no guesses from me. All we know is that they travel in groups, so I don't know. Sounds like it's a good time, at least. Lifespan and mating life, total mystery. All we know is that they eat decaying matter on the ocean floor. Kudos to the crew over at Mbari. The footage they find of these deep sea creatures is always fascinating. It's always so otherworldly over at Mbari. Are you guys hiring? I'm afraid of the ocean, but you know, I'll do some behind the scenes stuff, who knows. I'll just edit the weird fish. I'll put the text in. Like, what the f is this? Ooh. Number 9, rock bottom. A little over a year ago, scientists camped out in the middle of the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf for nearly 3 months. Why? All in the name of science. Yeah, we're getting cold. Geologist James Smith from the British Antarctic Survey slept in a tent. Who does this? Why do you choose to do this? James Smith, apparently. Here we go. He flew 5 hours out to this ice shelf. Him and his team had to melt 20 tons of snow in order to pour hot water through this ice shelf for 30 hours straight. When the team lowered their gear down through this 3,000 feet of ice, they couldn't get a sample of sediment from the ocean floor because they hit a boulder. I mean, the odds here alone, the entire seafloor is basically flat and they end up hitting this thing. At first they were frustrated, but this boulder that is 160 miles away from daylight is home to microbial malts, these alien-like sponges. These cylindrical sponges, possibly hydroids. I love seeing scientists get jazzed about stuff. They're like, oh, this rock had absolutely no business being here. Like, guy, you just melted through ice for 20 hours in the middle of Antarctica. I feel like it's the other way around. Imagine if those sea sponges could talk. They're like, oh, of all the spots, really? Please close that. The first shred of light, and it's just a big GoPro coming at them. They're like, what is that? Number 8, emperor penguins. They're as glorious as their name hints towards. I remember watching Happy Feet a lot growing up. I was really into penguins and tap dancing for a hot minute there. That movie changed the game. The main penguins here, they're all emperor penguins. Robin Williams' character, Lovelace, he's a rock hopper penguin with the cool, the fluffy eyebrows. The other guys are all emperor penguins. The colorful orange necks, the OG characters, they're all beautiful. They're the largest penguins on the planet, and their breeding habits set them aside from the rest. Once the female lays an egg, I'm not gonna do sound effects for this whole process. I don't know why I did that. That's so stupid. Once the female lays an egg, she'll leave it with her mate for an incubation period, but she'll walk over 50 miles to the ocean just to get food. The mate has to fast for around 100 days, just waiting for his next meal. Once in the water, these emperor penguins really go for it. They soar. They can dive up to 2,000 feet, which is far deeper than any bird in the animal kingdom. And they can hold their breath for around 20 minutes, which is incredible. Longest I've gotten is 3 minutes, but I'm coming for you, Mumbles. Number 7, chin strap penguins. Okay, from happy feet to slappy feet. Chinstrap penguins are the most aggressive of the penguin family. They're crazy. These guys are nuts. They're tiny. They have to be aggressive. Look at them. They only grow up to 30 inches in length. They're so tiny, but again, they're so aggressive. They only grow up to 30 inches in length, so they have to be, These ones don't tap dance. They actually crump battle you. Yeah, they embarrass you in front of you and your kin. Chin straps are small and quick because their diet requires them to be. With krill waiting 50 miles offshore, chin strap penguins have quite the commute. Their thick skin is also quite literal. Their blubber keeps them warm during these long commutes. As long as no leopard seals show up, their commute is pretty smooth sailing. Number 6, the sea spider. Okay, we had a few ha-has with the penguins. Now it's time to get weird. Now we know why we're here. The sea spider, thankfully, is not an actual spider. It just looks like one, kind of like Daddy Longlegs. This is a Daddy Cold Legs. It's a marine arthropod, and the reason it's so haunting to look at is because of polar gigantism. Many species have this. Their climate being so harsh, lack of nutrients, lack of sunlight, friends, family, etc. Scientists believe it's because sea spiders have slowed down their metabolism, so much so they require a small amount of oxygen to survive. So over time, the oxygen around these sea spiders turn them into like Captain America. They just juice them up. They take on way more than they're adapted to. And in turn, we get giant, terrifying sea bugs. Nice. Number 10, scimitar cat bone. Right off the hop, there have only been a few scimitar cat fossils found in history, period. So already, this is a good one, right? We love rare finds. I'm into Pokemon Go, so this is like, oh, a scimitar cat bone. Nice, add that to the collection. The Homotherium latidens lives again. Back in 2011, a bone of the beast was found on a Dominion Creek mining site right next to Dawson City in Yukon. Yeah, you want to make fun of Canadians for living in the cold? Well, joke's on you, pal. We have frozen scimitar cat bones. Yeah, in your face. In your face. Researchers at Copenhagen sequenced its genome, and its parents were only distantly related, so this was a rare cat while it was alive, let alone found frozen 47,000 years later, in 2011. We love it. Number 9, the oldest ice on the planet. They say you're as cold as ice, but never as old as ice. Let's change that. Let's make a new phrase. Why not? Scientists are digging up ice in Antarctica. There's pretty much nothing else to dig up, so obviously. Millions of years of ice hides in there, so there's of course millions of ancient secrets. John Higgins, a geochemist at Princeton, believes that there's 5 million year old ice still intact. And I want to lick it. I want to see what it tastes like, you know what I mean? Just ready to probe. Weird to say that and then immediately the probe thing. We'll do one or the other. lick ice and then probe it. I'm like, who is this guy? One group is claiming to have found 8 million years old ice, but climatologist Eric Wolf from the University of Cambridge says, my attitude is that I accept that it's old ice. I don't know if it's exactly 8 million, but I accept that it's old ice. Yeah, scientists are beefing about Ice Age, not the movies, like the age of the, you get it. There've been way too many of those movies, eh? It's like 7 now. Number 8, frozen bird. Back in 2018, an extremely well-preserved bird was found in northeastern Siberia, near the village of Balaya Gora. The bird itself was quite hidden, which explains its incredible preservation. It was found 150 meters into an ice tunnel, and the fascinating thing here, other than of course, you know, oh my god, a mummified bird, is that it looks like it died a week ago, right? If I found this, I wouldn't look twice, to be honest. I'd be like, ugh, and then I'd keep walking, you know, one of those. This bird froze 48,000 years ago. It's a long time, he's been dead. RIP 1,000 times, my little dude. Studying the bird's DNA has given researchers insight on the end of the last ice age. We love it, we love new info in the shape of dirty old birds. Nice. Number 7, iceworms. This is the Dune sequel you didn't know you wanted. Here we go. Around 24,000 years ago, these rotifers, or real creatures, or iceworms, they live in freshwater environments. They've been on our planet for millions of years, so it was only a matter of time before they came back to life. Yeah, that's their secret, Cap. They're immortal. Researchers have been studying these little guys for a while, and in the past they found that modern rotifers could freeze and then come back to life 10 years later. Yeah, a microscopic worm with a buzzsaw as a mouth can come back to life. The more you know. Hit that thumbs up on Most Amazing Top 10. I'm so scared. A year ago, these Ice Age worms were found 12 feet deep under permafrost in Siberia's Alizaya River. These ones came back to life after 24,000 years. Must be some Tuck everlasting water around them or something. I don't know. They're built different. Number 6, viruses. Before we get into the mummified mammoth cubs, we gotta talk about some concerning finds, of course. Just over a year ago in China, scientists discovered ancient viruses. These samples came from the Tibetan Plateau, and these samples were originally collected back in 2015. The contents, however, they date back to around 14,400 years ago, long before Captain America went into the ice. This is some ancient stuff right here. So dust, gases, and of course viruses over that long accumulate, and glaciers just soak it all in, layer after layer, just growing, getting bigger and stronger. Well, not necessarily anymore, but you get it. That is until scientists come in with a few mega drills. Now we're finding dinosaurs, and it's fascinating. Except for, you know, when you find 33 ancient viruses in the ice. We don't like that. Yeah, 33 viruses. That's like 2 more than my family computer had growing up. That's a lot of viruses. 4 of these viruses typically infect bacteria, and the rest were novel, which means that it's never been seen before. How neat is that? Novel viruses. Just what the world needs, right? Oh, God. Number 5, preserved wolf pup. This little lady went into the ice 57,000 years ago. I bet she had no idea she'd ever see the sun again until now. Here we go. Discovered in Yukon, Canada, Zur is the most complete wolf mummy that has ever been found in history. Ever. She's incredibly intact. She was discovered in 2016 by a gold miner while they were blasting water at frozen mud. They thought it was treasure, but really it was just this little shiny lady instead. She's quite old to us, but when she went into the ice, x-rays tell us she was only 6 weeks old. It's pretty sad. X-rays also showed that she loved fish. She had a belly full of fish. She was eating good until she froze. Sad. Number 4, underneath Thwaites Glacier. We've seen some fascinating stuff here on Most Amazing Top 10, specifically underwater footage. I can't do that, but they love giving me those lists. I get nice and anxious doing those ones. This is footage from the bottom of an Antarctic glacier. This is incredible. This is something we shouldn't have been able to see in our lifetime. This glacier is the size of Florida, okay? So if it collapses, our sea levels could rise 10 feet. So yeah, let's drill a hole through the middle and see what happens. We love it, all in the name of science. This was back in 2019. Researchers drilled 2,300 feet through the Thwaites Glacier and dropped a robot with a camera down. This is the first time in history we've seen the grounding zone of Thwaites Glacier. Lead scientist Brittany Schmidt says this project is a dream come true. It's her walking on the moon moment. There's only 1 meter of space between the bottom of the glacier and the rocky seafloor. So you're seeing the bottom of a continent, basically, like in Smash Bros, the very bottom of that floating arena. That's it, right here, underwater. I'm so scared. I feel so small looking at this. Would you swim underneath it, Chris? No, I wouldn't either. I would do this and then go back. Screw that. Yo, it's deep too, and it's like literally like it's like a triangle at the bottom, and it's like you see the ocean floor is like right there. I'm like, this is actually really scary. It gets my heart going. I can't do this. I'm afraid of lakes and fish and Ghosts. Number 3, Europa cryobot. We've talked about Jupiter's moon on this channel often for some reason. Apparently there's a lot of going on up there. But now we found traces of water on the icy shell of the moon, which is fascinating in general because water in space, I mean, hello, have you seen Alien or Aliens or any movie in space? The part that really has NASA's attention here is the tectonic activity beneath the icy shell, meaning that somewhere in the middle there could be warm water flowing. Yeah, there's this spa. You could just float. There's a lazy river on this moon. We love it. One of the only ways to get under that thick shell of ice and find out what's really going on is Valkyrie. Yeah, not the superhero from Thor. She's a cryobot that NASA created specifically for this mission. Yeah, a little pricey, but she's doing the trick. This machine is capable of melting through layers and layers of ice. A prototype was tested recently in Alaska and the results were promising because, you know, it worked. So yeah. This cryobot is capable of crawling through 8 kilometers of ice a year. So while we do tests here on Earth, we're just gonna keep finding more fascinating mummies or disgusting scary things like viruses. One of the two, it's science, hey, we're doing our best. Number 2, Project Iceworm. This one has no actual worms in it, just so you know, that was the gross one up there. This is more of a government one, here we go. As a Canadian, this secret project sounds like the worst one on this list. Ah, it's so cold. I'm sick of the cold. Had it. Back in the 1960s, under the Greenland ice sheet, the US Army started to build mobile nuclear missile launch sites. Yeah, codename was Project Iceworm. And now we're still finding a whole bunch of gadgets and bad stuff there, so they didn't do a great job cleaning up. The idea here with the project is that they would be close enough they could hit targets within the Soviet Union, right? That was the whole point. This project was called Project Iceworm, but there was also another project, a little secret one, called Camp Century. This one had to be done first. Camp Century was a network of underground tunnels and places for workers to stay, like a kitchen, a hall, supply rooms, communication centers, all good stuff like that. There's also a nuclear power plant, and this was kept from the Danish government for 7 years. So yeah, some secret nuclear activity. We always gotta talk about that on Most Amazing Top 10. Back in 1966, the project was canceled because of shifting ice. Or was it? There's still some activity going on over there. No one knows what's up. Thought I'd get that in your ear before we do our big bad number 1. Here we go. And finally, coming in at number 1, preserved mammoth cub. In 2010, a mummified mammoth cub was discovered in Siberia, right off the coast of Oyogos. Named after a nearby village, Yuka, the newfound cub is now the best preserved mammoth discovered in history. This was a fascinating find that should have never been seen again, let alone seen in such great condition. Guy looks like he was in Ice Age, like the movie Ice Age. He looks great. But that's not the end for the woolly mammoth. No, it was announced only months ago that a team of scientists and entrepreneurs over at a company called Colossal are planning to bring the colossal woolly mammoth back to life. Here we go. Imagine driving and you see one of these crossing the street, you're like, I guess we'll wait. The last mammoth to walk on the planet was alive around 10,500 years ago. But what if they were alive today? What's the whole point, right? Why are we doing this? Colossal raised over $15 million and they're now working on reviving the woolly mammoth to ideally decelerate the melting of the Arctic permafrost and to ideally save modern elephants from extinction and of course to advance CRISPR editing because, you know, we can. Why not? Hey, let's bring this back to life because CRISPR editing, the classic CRISPR. We love science. Maybe a bit too much though, you know? Is it a good idea to bring the woolly mammoth back to life or are we just setting them up for another slow disaster? Number 5, scale worms. Upon first glance, again, scale worms look microscopic. They look like tiny bacteria that are covered in scales. Hairy, weird, gross scales. They're pretty horrifying to look at. These guys are actually 8 inches long on average, so they're not tiny at all. This is what they really look like. The Antarctic scale worm is covered with elytra, these natural bristles, but the most distracting feature here has to be its mouth, head, mouth thing, yeah. This part on its mouth can literally fully retract. It can go inside out, yeah. It can suck its own mouth inside of its body, and then when it's time to eat, it pops out and then claws its prey to pieces. Horrible. I saw a video of it, I almost threw up. We went from happy feet to retractable mandibles. Cheers, that's how we do it here on MA. Number 4, glass sponges. Antarctic glass sponges. They don't get their name because they're translucent, they get their name because their skeletons contains silica, which is a literal component of glass. How neat is that? Back in 2013, a massive discovery took place. Scientists figured out how these glass sponges grow in size. Well, they figured out that they do grow in general. As our ice shelves slowly disappear, the numbers of glass sponge sightings, they increase. They don't hunt down prey at all, obviously. They spend their entire life quite still, just eating the leftovers that happen to drift along their merry way. Their food was so sparse as well, for a long time it was fully believed they couldn't possibly grow, because what would they possibly eat? The more we learn about glass sponges, the better, because these little guys tell us a lot about climate change. We're like, how is it happening? What's going on? nothing's happening. They don't talk much, they're really quiet, they don't have mouths or eyes. Number 3, the springtail. Also known as the elephants of Antarctica, springtails are hexapods. They're exclusively land animals, whereas penguins, they sometimes, bop and swim. These guys are only on land. They're tiny as well. They measure up to about 1 millimeter on average. They look like earwigs almost. Ice earwigs that eat bacteria. Horrible. They got a big old butt too, so you're probably gonna notice if you see one walking by. They live on average 1 to 2 years, and they produce glycerol, which helps them, not freeze to death. That always helps. Antarctic springtails live longer than springtails in other parts of the world because the frigid temperatures, again, slows their metabolism down so much they can just survive off basically nothing. They're not immortal, but as far as ice insects go, they're close. They're pretty mighty. Small but mighty. Number 2, the Hoff crab. When these creatures get their names, it's often in relation to their appearance or their super ability. The immortal jellyfish ages in reverse. The glass octopus is otherwise see-through. The Hoff crab gets its name because it looks hairy, like David Hasselhoff. He's hairy as well. Yeah, David Hasselhoff just tweeted the Hoff crab with this photo. So random. Imagine following him and you see this, you're like, what's going on? Why? We love it. The scientific name later given was Kiwi tyleri, appropriately named after its discoverer, Paul Tyler from Southampton University. Found in the East Scotia Ridge on the Southern Ocean, where the water is too cold for the Hoff crab, these guys are just covered in bacteria, hence their hairy Hoff look. Because it spends so much time staying warm near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor. The guy literally just sits around a deep sea campfire just collecting ice cold bacteria. What a wild life. He's a deep sea hairy caveman, essentially. When it comes time to eat, the Hoff crab just scrapes off a little bit of bacteria from any part and then just gives himself more food. He gives himself a little haircut salad. We love those. And finally, coming in number 1, the colossal squid. Not to be confused with the giant squid, those are similar but smaller. Still terrifying, but more petite. As its name gives away, the colossal squid is much larger. They live in the darkest, coldest depths surrounding the waters of Antarctica, and these squids, on average, they're around 46 feet in length, with the females being the largest of the species. The biggest and baddest, of course. They have large tentacles with suckers equipped with razor hooks, so whatever it does grab, it's certainly not letting go anytime soon. Its diet consists of large fish, and when I say large, I'm referring to, 7-foot-long Patagonian toothfish, not a goldfish. They're colossal, and they try and fight whales sometimes. They're crazy. They have no regard for the size of others. They're gonna fight anything and everyone. They're more often than not marked up, suggesting they've been in a few deep sea tussles. On top of being magnificent, they're quite mysterious. Only 2 specimens have ever been collected, with the second being recent in 2014. Some believe this is the closest living relative to the kraken. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Sound off below. Either way, I'm gonna go throw up. I never want to see any of these in real life. Awesome. Number 10, sandhoppers. Sand hopping in Antarctica? Get out of town. A sandhopper sounds like something from the movie Dune. These amphipod crustaceans can be found more often than not near shores, but also in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean. They eat decaying or dead material. I mean, just by looking at them, you can tell that they eat leftovers. They're around 1 meter long to a few inches long. They're tiny, little buggy dudes. They're pretty unique as well. When we think of the bottom of the food chain, we don't connect beauty with them a lot, right? These sandhoppers can come in many different shapes, sizes, and even colors. Some are pale, some are camouflage, some are bright red. They're all unique New Yorks. Look at them go. Number 9, icefish. Fish that are icy. Yes, here we go. Now we're back on track. This makes much more sense for Antarctica. Icefish didn't get their name because they live in a place full of ice. They literally are the most cold-blooded creature on the planet. Aside from your ex, of course. They can adapt their body temperature to the water and stay cold. They stay frosty, my friends. If they encounter warm water, God forbid, well, they simply won't survive. It's chilly waters or bust for icefish. If you're wondering how they swim around without literally freezing solid, it's because, well, similarly to the fish that we had on part 1, these two create glycoproteins, which is a natural antifreeze, if you will. That's why they don't have chunks of ice hanging off of them, just weighing them down all day. They have a natural antifreeze, but no hemoglobin, so their blood is white. So underwater, they just look like nothing, really. Invisible ice fish. Yeah, this place is wild. Number 8, narwhals. The unicorn of the sea. Are these things real? I have never seen one before. But to be fair, I don't spend a lot of time in Arctic waters, so that makes sense. My last name has waters in it, but I don't really like the water, Nor do I have a horn growing out of my head, so I don't belong anywhere near these guys. Narwhals can grow up to 17 feet in length. Their horn is mighty. Tusk, rather, they're one single head tusk. I like saying horn because it's majestic. It reminds you of unicorns, right? And narwhals are majestic. More often than not, males will grow the tusk, and female narwhals have these tiny little tusks. Scientists still can't explain the reason behind a narwhal's tusk in the first place. Why is it used? I mean, so far we believe it's to impress females. That's our main guess. Or hunt other males. Yeah, we got narwhals jesting in the ocean for love. A lot happening over in the Arctic. Number 7, walrus. Yeah, since we're on the topic of tusks, why not? These guys are also pretty bizarre when you really think about it. They have massive tusks coming out of their face. And I recently watched that horror movie with Justin Long called Tusk, and now I can't look at a walrus ever again the same. These Arctic creatures have some odd patterns. Their abilities are also extremely underrated. Their tusks can reach 3 feet and they use them to hoist themselves out of the water. Yeah, they bite into the ice and then pull their fat bodies out. I can't even bite ice cream. Imagine using your teeth to get out of the ocean. Ugh, that's athletic, man. Walrus can also slow their heart rate down in order to save energy. That's also pretty neat. They have fantastic abilities to adapt, but humans, we almost sent these beautiful creatures into extinction. Classic. Classic humans just getting involved, wanting to take a look. Walrus hunting is now illegal for the most part, aside from a few areas, so these blubbery boys still have a fighting chance. But historically, a walrus have never attacked a human ever, so don't be afraid of them. They don't want any beef, just fish. Number 6, snailfish. Another fish, another fun fact. There's around 400 types of snailfish in the frigid depths of the Arctic. The frigid depths of the Arctic. Why'd I write myself tongue twisters. Now, of course, there are many that haven't even been discovered yet, which is always fun. Thankfully, we have researchers take on these daring expeditions, like The Secrets of Antarctica, for example. This documentary is breathtaking, and it's on YouTube for free. It was released back in 2019 on Track's official page. In this documentary, scientist Andrew Stewart finds a new species of snailfish. Yeah, spoiler alert, but had to include it. Now you want to take a look. He said the discovery is beyond words. Yeah, more than fair. Look at this thing. I wouldn't know what to say. He's a squishy tadpole looking rubbery fish. He looks quite sad. And to be fair, when you live 700 meters below in freezing cold water and you don't have much company, yeah, I'd be sad too. That is until Andrew Stewart came along and introduced you to the rest of the world. Now we know what this thing is. Massive eyes, unique color patterns. Not everything down there is terrifying. Just most things, I guess. Number 5, feather star. Scientific name is Promicocnerus gurgulenus. That's, I tried 17 other times, but we had to cut it out, so that's the best I could do. We'll call it feather star. Feather star is a little bit easier today. And dare I say, that name is quite fitting. Look at him go! He's like a mop head with feelings. He is on a mission. The feather star was discovered during the Challenger expedition way back in the early 70s. They're too fast. I mean, like, they're not fast, but they can really move around for what they are. 5 centimeters per second. That's pretty fast for an ice-cold crinoid. There's 3 main parts to this fantastic brush. There's the stem, the calyx, and the arms. Now these guys, they self-repair their body parts, which is just insane to me. They'll just yank off one of their arms and just grow a whole new one, like it's no problem. They trap prey. Well, rather they trap any food particles that float on by. They use their long feathery arms and their natural sticky mucus to catch food and then cycle it through their body. Feather stars reproduce every 10 to 16 months. I have my hands up, like I want to be a feather star. I don't know why I'm doing this. Hi, like RuPaul. Feather stars reproduce every 10 to 16 months, but it's tricky. Male and female sea stars live in different habitats, right? Different sides of the gymnasium during that first dance, right? They have to kind of get close. They're on opposite ends here. So mating season really has to go swimmingly or else their population is literally at stake. Hope they get along. Number 4, growler bear. Yeah, I said growler bear instead of polar bear. What about it? Let's talk. Does this bear do roller derby? Is that where it gets its name from? What's going on? Back in 2006, a Canadian hunter found a hybrid bear. They called it a Pizzly bear, or a growler bear. You get what I'm doing here. Because it looks like a mix of the two, but it actually was a hybrid. Yeah, tests were later conducted in 2010 after more appeared in Alaska and northern Canada. Historically, polar bears branched off of grizzlies, you know, like DNA-wise way back. Now we're at a point where Arctic areas are warming up and these two species are both traveling further away to find food. So now these two branches are starting to merge back together, and in turn we get a growler bear. Which is just fun to say. A growler bear. Number 3, Arctic octopus. I watched My Octopus Teacher last week with Olivia, and we both bawled our eyes out. That was a great fun time. That was good. That was a nice date. I didn't know I could get so attached to an octopus. These little guys are fascinating. They dream. They use shells as tools and like shields. They can camouflage. They have 9 brains, 8 arms, 3 hearts, and hundreds of suckers, and 1 life. I don't know why I added that at the end. I didn't even add that. I was like, oh, we need a 1 here for this list. And Arctic octopus survive in sub-zero temperatures by using a blue pigment in their blood. They use a natural protein called hemocyanin. They oxygenate their bodies and they adapt to harsh environments, and most importantly, they're really cute. Yeah, look at this little guy. Their appendages are all tight. It keeps it warm and keeps it cozy. That's great. Little arms. Oh, I can't even look at him. He's so cute. Get him out of here. Get that guy out of here. I want to poke him. Number 2, basket stars. This next one here is truly a basket case. The basket star, scientific name Gorganocephalus, sounds like a Harry Potter villain, does not look like any type of sea star that we've seen before. Basket stars are brittle stars. They can crawl with these lanky, long appendages. I mean, I would definitely know. This one here was found at 500 meters below sea level. Just walking around like haunted hay, just taking its time, just drifting along. It could also feed by floating along the surface of the water, so next time you take an ice cold dip, watch out you don't run into one of these. Keep your mouth shut when you're swimming, or else you'll get one of these brittle, fuzzy things in your mouth. Gross. And coming in at number 1, pile of bones. Look, I know this isn't a creature per se, but it's too interesting to leave out. Antarctica is another planet. That place looks like Hoth sometimes, especially in 2016. A team of researchers were working on James Ross Island and they stumbled across 70-million-year-old fossils. Yeah, what a find. Ancient sea creatures, ancestors of ducks, this thing was a loaded pierogi of history. Researchers have also recently found that 75 million years ago, wildfires were once ripping through Antarctica. How wild is that? Dinosaurs and wildfires. Yeah, a little different than today's Antarctica, just a tad. Most ancient wildfire evidence has been found in the northern hemisphere, so to find the burnt remains of coniferous trees like charcoal fragments in Antarctica, it reminds us that once upon a time Antarctica was once fresh when it separated from Gondwana. It was isolated, it was ice-free, most importantly, and it was full of volcanic activity and high oxygen. Tectonic plates were running wild during the Cretaceous period. This was a wild time. Antarctica sure is barren now, but oh boy, are we lucky that's the case. Scary dinosaurs and fires. No thank you.
Number 10, hidden lakes. So it took working at a champagne restaurant to find out that salt water doesn't freeze. Well, it does, but at very, very low temperatures. We used to use it to hyperchill wine that was in storage because salty water can get colder than 0 degrees Celsius without freezing. The saltier the water, the colder it gets because salt lowers the freezing point because it interferes with the water molecule's ability to form crystals, which is at least one reason why Deep Lake in Antarctica has stayed liquid for millions of years. It sits 55 meters below the sea level and the salinity of the water increases as it gets deeper. Despite temperatures reaching minus 20 degrees Celsius, the lake remains in a liquid state, though entirely uninhabitable, or so they thought. Scientists uncovered at least 4 microbe species living in the water, but that's about the only thing that can. Because the water can reach much colder temperatures than the sea, even penguins wouldn't survive for long. They have been caught swimming in it, but it would feel to them what it feels like for us jumping into an icy lake for a polar dip. You know, if they stay too long, it would probably kill them. How the lake formed exactly still has scientists baffled, but they're probably, but let's be honest, they'll probably figure it out. Number 9, rainforests? Press rewind on the world for long enough and you would arrive in a world of opposites, which includes Antarctica being closer to a rainforest than an icy tundra. Scientists gather that before Antarctica was an expanse of ice, the region may have been host to lush forests, diverse wildlife, and even early human civilizations. But why do they think that? Scientists began discovering fossilized wood, leaf impressions, and signs of tropical trees. On top of that, they have found tons of fossils of marine animals, dinosaurs, and birds from the Cretaceous period, so you can see how they deduced the existence of some kind of forest-like area. Scientists are now looking to Antarctica for clues about evolution that we may have missed. So far, they have discovered a 50-million-year-old sperm cell on the egg case of a long-extinct worm species, which is extraordinary if you think about it. Man, like, talk about resilience, buddy. Number 8, mountains. Imagine the ice melts away, and beneath those massive, vast sheets of ice is an entire mountain range. Well, guess what? You don't have to imagine it, it's real. Hiding out beneath a 2 to 4 kilometer thick sheet of ice are what's called the Gamburtsev Mountains. They stretch across 1,200 kilometers and rise about 1/3 of the height of Mount Everest. But how did an entire mountain range that high get covered in a sheet of ice? When Soviet geophysicist Grigory A. Gamburtsev made the discovery in 1958, he had the same question, though he hasn't actually seen the mountains covered by ice, remember, but was able to figure out that they were there by measuring the abnormal gravity fluctuations in the area. They have since used radars to interpret the physical attributes of the mountains, but how did they end up that far beneath the ice? The mountains are around 1 billion years old, and scientists figure they should have eroded away by now. But the most popular theory as to why they are still there is that the erosion process just paused as soon as the ice sheet got large enough. To picture how immense this is, just imagine that the Rocky Mountains are covered by a sheet of ice. Astounding. Number 6, blood falls. Blood falls.
Get your mind out of the gutter. Sounds pretty terrifying, as it would have been for the person who first discovered it. In the McMurdo Dry Valley, there's a bright crimson river that cuts between Taylor Glacier and Lake Bonny. It looks like someone went to town on their dinner and just let the bodies drain into the water, but thank goodness there's a scientific explanation. Beneath the glacier there's a very briny lake that was cut off from the atmosphere and is 3 times as salty as seawater, meaning, as we know now, that it can't really freeze, but it can, I guess, at a very low level. At first, it was suspected that a kind of red algae had infiltrated the glacier, causing the vibrant red hue, but in actuality, the briny lake is incredibly high in iron, and since it was cut off from oxygen for millions of years, the red color is a product of the reaction the water has to the oxygen and the sunlight from the atmosphere. The iron in the water oxidizes and rusts, like your car, which brings out the vibrant red illusion that is Blood Falls. Number 5. Ancient meteorites. You may think meteorites and asteroids are dangerous, but something far less obvious may cause more damage than a doom rock. 430,000 years ago, smack dab in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch, a massive space rock the size of a soccer field crashed through Earth's atmosphere, but instead of smashing into the Earth, an airburst happened. Just before it slammed into the ice, it burst into pieces, exploding in the sky, and launched a superheated jet of gas. The explosion caused massive amounts of damage, scattering pieces of itself everywhere, which is how scientists were able to deduce that this happened. They found pieces of the asteroid across the ice and used chemical clues to link the particles together. They were also able to determine that the force of the blast was about, get ready, 1,000 times stronger than the nuclear blast at Hiroshima, and that destroyed an entire city, so imagine what would have happened if that happened today. Number 4. Oil guzzling fungi. So we mentioned that there might be a world-ending microbes beneath the ice, but there also could be something that saves it. A unique kind of fungi has been found beneath the ice gorging on petroleum. What on earth could that possibly be used for, you ask? Well, if these fun little guys love eating oil so much, then imagine how happy they'd be to dive into, let's say, an oil spill. They were first encountered when scientists came upon fuel containers left by explorers and immediately began studying them. Fungi don't usually just flourish at parties, they flourish in warm wooded regions, but perhaps the fungus that used to thrive in the rainforests we mentioned, they evolved to thrive in the icy barren conditions as well. So cool. We could learn so much about evolution that way. Number 3, top 3. Singing ice. Yup, the ice is singing. After scientists installed seismic sensors in the ice to measure its behavior, they discovered a mysterious song. Well, more like a massive ice drum. And it sounds like this. The pitch changes based on the weather, though you wouldn't be able to hear it should you just stand on it. It's not audible to the human ear, but the humming occurs on the 500,000 square kilometer on the Ross Ice Shelf, about the size of France. The winds blowing across the snow dunes is what causes the humming, and scientists figure that this could be an even better way to keep tabs on how the ice is doing in relation to global warming. The ice is thinning due to global warming, and the song is almost a gift, an easier way to track the stability and vulnerability of the ice shelf. Sounds like nature is working with us to save itself. Number 2, cosmic particles. A mystery capable of breaking physics. If that were possible, it would be found in Antarctica. Since March 2016, researchers have been furrowing their brows over 2 distinct events that shouldn't have happened. Physicists caught cosmic rays that burst out from the Earth, not from space. The rays were detected by ANITA, NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, a balloon-borne antenna. The balloon is designed to find cosmic rays from outer space, and caused a lot of excitement when it caught them coming up from the Earth instead. The discovery even implied theories that could support parallel universes. What boggled scientists about this discovery is that 2 particles seem to be cosmic rays that blasted through the planet and back out the other side. They shouldn't be able to do that. They now suspect that they may be particles that defy the standard model of how particles are supposed to behave, and maybe they're a new type of particle altogether. This is obviously a very simplistic explanation. It gets a lot more complicated and there's still more information out there, but still, really, really cool. And last but not least, a hidden German base. There are several versions of this story, some even going so far as theorizing that World War II mustache man escaped there and didn't die in his bunker. Some theories even say that German intelligence encountered aliens and developed new weapons with their tech, but the one truth is that there was indeed a secret World War II German base in Antarctica. Apparently there was an expedition to establish a base as a whaling station in order to increase Germany's production of fat, which could be used for soap and mayonnaise and butter. The expedition was led by Alfred Richter, and other theories suggest Adolf himself sent the expeditions to research ways Germany could become a self-supporting country. Perhaps the reason was that innocent, but with the base having been abandoned 70 years ago, we will never know.
Number 5, a strange catch. When you fish off Alaska's coast, you really never know what you reel in. Sea creatures are already creepy enough, but imagine pulling up this thing. Back in 2019, an angler named Sarah Alford pulled up this alien-looking sea creature. And when she posted her catch online, everybody else was like, great, what is it though? And no one had any idea what this thing was, including herself. Everybody was just as confused as she was. What planet did you catch this thing on? The clip got millions of views, no problem. People were upset in the comments even, saying not to pull him out of the water because he couldn't breathe. But then other comments are like, yeah, but why? What is it? Is it a fish? Does that mean that's a fish? Turns out this thing is a basket star, a species of Shinoderm, aka sea star. Yeah, it's just a fancy starfish. Yeah, not all starfish look like starfish. Sometimes they look like inside-out aliens. Sometimes they look like haunted bowls of ramen. The more you know. Number 4, pyrosomes. I've said it once and I will say it again. The ocean, the sea, hell, even the lake sometimes. Nope, not going in. I'm gonna stay dry forever. It's home to a lot of weird stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff hiding in the water. Starfish that look like they're inside out, jellyfish that age in reverse. It's all truly alien. The more we find, the happier lad I am on the land. Like pyrosomes, for example. This is straight out of, I don't know, hell? These tropical tube-shaped sea creatures are appearing in the millions near Alaska. Why? Wouldn't you like to know? They began to show up back in 2017 and we're still figuring out what's going on with them. They're these foot-long tubes. They're these glowing sea tubes. They look like deflated sea pickles almost. They're so odd. Just sad sea balloons. Researchers at NOAA's Alaska Fisheries Center are shocked because they've never seen pyrosomes travel this far north before. Where are they going? Why? Why is it becoming a common sighting in Alaskan waters now? These numbers are so high that when fishermen are finding them, they're clogging all their gear up. Yeah, their nets are just layered in this goop. Just jellyfish balloon goop. Nice, we love it. Number 3, the basking shark. Translating to large-nosed sea monster. Nice, for good reason there, I guess. The basking shark is something I hope I never run into at any point in my life. Even in an aquarium, I don't wanna see it. I'll close my eyes and walk through that entire exhibit. I don't wanna look at it. They swim around the surface of the water, first of all, scary, and search for tiny food. They search for plankton. Despite how big and scary their mouths are, their meal is preferably tiny. Basking sharks will go years without seeing one of these. But once we do, we're in luck. Because more often than not, basking sharks will travel in large numbers, and they're found in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. As of 2019, basking sharks were considered endangered thanks to overfishing. Yeah, they have some biological mysteries behind them though. The basking shark mouth is massive and, like I said before, quite scary, but otherwise it's pretty normal. Basking shark females, however, they only have one functioning ovary, and it's always the same every time. It's always on the right side, and we're still not quite sure why. Number 2, red squirrels. Okay, so Olivia told me recently that black squirrels in Toronto, they aren't a thing everywhere. They're not a thing in Regina. But over in Toronto, my whole life I've seen black squirrels everywhere, maybe even more so than a brown squirrel. So this one I had to throw in because I simply don't know anymore. My whole life is now a lie. I could be colorblind for all I know. Because now we got red squirrels over in Alaska. Like red, like mighty red. These things look like Vikings. A common sighting over there. They have these cute white bellies. They look straight out of a fairy tale. That's another thing. Every time you see a squirrel in a book, it's always brown. I can't confidently tell you what color squirrels are anymore. Zebras, I got, that's fine. Zebras, no problem. Squirrels, no clue. The only squirrels I see downtown Toronto look like they just got a buzz cut out of nowhere. They're like losing hair, they have bald spots. I don't know, these squirrels are up to no good. I don't wanna know what's going on. You ever see a squirrel that clearly just got into an altercation and you're like, hey little guy? I can't talk to Toronto squirrels. Squirrels are too scary. Alaskan red squirrels, those are awesome. We like those. Those are probably a bit more gentle. They don't have to dodge taxi cabs. And finally, number 1, the king crab. Okay, I'm not great with spiders. You've seen this, you know this on this channel here. And crabs, in case you're wondering, nope, no better. They're larger and they can swim. 2 more red flags, my friends. Not a big fan of crabs, but the Alaskan king crab, they're honestly pretty impressive. I had to put them at number 1. They're an OG. They have the name Alaskan in their name. You know what I mean? They've made their home. These king crabs can reach up to 5 feet wide. A giant sea spider, great. But instead of 8 legs, they only have 6. But the massive claws that resemble boxing gloves, those don't feel too good on your skin. You want to avoid that. The bizarre thing about these yummy sea creatures with the Alaskan king crab is that their right claw is often way bigger than the left. And that claw is more often than not their weapon. That's their go-to weapon. So they're not right or left-handed. They're just like, oh, what's bigger? This one? Sure. That's how they pick which-handed they are.
Number 5, lion cubs. As I've mentioned before, Siberia is a place that is fairly popular for finding frozen specimens, and this time they didn't just find one animal, but instead 2 matching ones. They found 2 mummified cave lions that lived during the Ice Age around 30,000 years ago, giving them the names Sparta and Boris. They were found in 2017 and 2018 by mammoth tusk collectors, and one of the cubs was believed at the time to be the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. It was originally thought that the 2 cubs they discovered were siblings, being only a few months old at the time of their death, but research showed that Boris had actually died about 15,000 years before Sparta. Sparta still had her fur, teeth, skin, organs, and even her whiskers, looking like she may have only recently died despite being a part of a species that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. If given the chance to grow up, the cubs would have managed to grow to 5 feet long and weigh almost 1,000 pounds. Number 4, sharks. Creatures that are found frozen in ice don't always actually come from the Ice Age. There are plenty of cold places right now where animals can unfortunately become trapped or pass away and then freeze. In Cape Cod, Massachusetts, it has become startlingly common for giant sharks to become frozen in the ice off the coast. A few years ago, they found a total of 4 different sharks that had all become frozen in the ice and passed away. The sharks were apparently becoming trapped in shallow waters during changing weather conditions, and sudden cold snaps would cause them to freeze and die. The thresher sharks that were commonly becoming trapped were apparently not a very well-studied species, so the bodies that were found were taken and thawed in order to be dissected and researched. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy even went so far to refer to the specimens as sharksicles, but probably not something you'd want to eat on a hot day in the summer. Number 3, mummies. Human remains are usually found when archaeologists dig up large graves and find skeletons, but in a rare case they managed to find the well-preserved and mummified body of a woman. A group of hikers exploring an Argentinian volcano found the body of a woman who appeared to have died around 500 years ago. The body was well preserved due to the incredibly high and cold elevation at which it was found. It's believed that the body was there as part of an ancient sacrificial ritual, and the woman, named the Inca Ice Maiden, was sacrificed. She was given lots of food and drink before being led up the volcano, where she was left to die of exposure. The discovery of her body was also incredibly important because from samples they took, they were able to discover that she was fighting tuberculosis, and these sorts of samples can help us work towards fighting these diseases in the modern day. Number 2, foal. In the summer of 2018, they found what they called the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. Feels like they say that a lot. Anyways, mammoth tusk hunters in Siberia found the body of an around 42,000-year-old horse foal, incredibly well preserved thanks to the cold temperatures. They say that it was only about 2 weeks old at the time of its death, and they were able to extract both blood and urine samples from it. The discovery apparently pushed scientists closer to the hope that they could bring these extinct creatures like mammoths back to life. I think we should listen to Jurassic Park's warnings and just deal with the animals we actually have right now. I know you might be thinking that a baby horse isn't some terrifying giant Ice Age creature, but full-grown horses are pretty big, okay, and they're actually kind of terrifying. I mean, they basically walk on one giant finger. It's creepy, and I don't like it. Number 1, baby mammoth. During the Ice Age, mammoths were one of the biggest creatures around, basically being massive furry elephants. This young woolly mammoth specimen was found in, you guessed it, Siberia. This incredibly well-preserved body of a young female woolly mammoth named Yuka is said to have lived around 28,000 years ago, and they were discovered around a decade ago. Due to her good condition, scientists were eager to conduct experiments, and one of those was taking cells from her body. When they put the cells together, they found that they were still active, even almost 30,000 years later, so they managed to technically revive Yuka in a way. At full size, woolly mammoths were usually around 13 feet tall and would weigh around 13,000 pounds, or the same as around 26,000 large oranges, if that helps you picture it.
The large Antarctic sea mammal, also known as the Antarctic Godzilla. So the story goes that on February 13th of 1958, the Japanese research vessel Soya Nihongo was cruising through Antarctica's icy waters when around 7 p.m. the crew spotted something massive in Lutzow Bay. This thing was giant. The captain of the ship would go on to dub the creature the Antarctic Godzilla because to him it looked a lot like Godzilla. Now, I love my giant monster movies, Mothra, Gigan, the whole gang. Not the type of movie characters I'd like to encounter in real life though. If I found out the Ninja Turtles were chilling in the sewers below Manhattan, that would be a great day for me. A real life Godzilla rising from the water to wreak havoc on the Japanese public wouldn't be a boring news day, but not good. There's not a ton of info on this case. The sighting was brief, and the creature disappeared before anyone could get a clear look or photo, but the nickname stuck, and some say this creature could have been the same as the Kamagon that I spoke about earlier. The notorious bloop recording. We've all heard of this, but if you're thinking it can all be explained away as glacial ice, think again, there could be more to it than that. For those not in the know, the bloop was an eerie, unexplained sound that was recorded in 1997. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration picked up a powerful underwater noise in the South Pacific. This sound was incredibly low frequency and very loud. The mysterious sound was dubbed the bloop, and nobody knew what it was. Some thought it might be from a massive, undiscovered sea creature. But in 2012, the NOAA figured that the bloop was actually just similar to noises made by shifting ice. The bloop was detected several times by an array of hydrophones designed to listen for undersea activity. The NOAA concluded that the sound matched patterns produced by ice quakes rather than some giant sea creature, but till this day not everyone is convinced. Some argue that the bloop's sound patterns are just too specific, pointing to it coming from some yet to be discovered animal. Are there walruses in the southern hemisphere? Well, not officially anyway, but there have been some very odd sightings over the years. Sightings of what have been dubbed southern walruses. Victorian naturalist James Hector, who was no stranger to odd animal reports, collected stories about walrus-like creatures spotted around New Zealand. Hector even speculated that these creatures might be lurking among the Antarctic ice flows. He thought if these areas were explored more extensively, they might uncover these walruses as well as other unknown animals. Thor Heyerdahl, the famous explorer, also had thoughts on this, saying that a Maori myth about a tusked merman might have actually been based on sightings of these mysterious southern hemisphere walruses. And there are other mentions of tusked creatures in the region. Historical records mention tusked marine mammals off South Africa. In Francois Legat's Voyage and Adventures from 1707, Legat described seeing a large red sea cow with long tusks off the Cape of Good Hope. Then in 1852, we have Hugh de Bonelly's sighting off Isla San Lorenzo in Peru. He saw a giant tusked seal described as having a seal-like head with two huge white tusks. With all these strange sightings and historical records, could there really be something out there lurking in the icy depths that we still don't fully understand? But walruses aren't the only out-of-place animals reported to show up in the southern hemisphere. Narwhals have as well. Back in 1615, Dutch explorer Willem Schouten had a close encounter when his ship was attacked by an unknown beast. The next day, they found a horn lodged in the ship about a foot long. Then in 1785, a French general reported seeing two dark porpoise-like animals south of Africa. He described them having a horn about 1.5 feet long and noted a high fin, which is odd since narwhals usually have a bony ridge. In 1892, the ship Baleina spotted a narwhal near the Bransfield Strait, pretty close to Antarctica. And these were experienced whalers who all said what they saw was definitely a narwhal, or at least looked a hell of a lot like one. In recent years, Antarctica has been the focus of some pretty wild conspiracy theories, one of which is that there are secret government facilities dedicated to the study of aliens and their technology. The remote and inhospitable climate of Antarctica would make for an ideal cover for secretive activities, and some conspiracy theorists point to satellite images and unusual geological formations in Antarctica as evidence of possible hidden alien bases. Some believe that there are massive pyramid-type structures buried under the ice that may have been built by some ancient civilization, possibly with the help of aliens, or just built by aliens themselves who once inhabited the Earth, setting up bases in the South Pole. The governments of the world are rumored to have secret research facilities in Antarctica to study alien technology. Some even claim that these facilities have made contact with extraterrestrial beings. It's very hard to believe, but I'd like to think so. The Ningan is another more modern legend that's caught quite a bit of attention online in the last couple decades. Ningan, which means human in Japanese, is a creature supposedly lurking in the sub-Antarctic oceans. There are two main ways people describe the Ningan. The first is a massive whale-like creature with a humanoid face and giant limbs, said to be around 65 to 100 feet long. The second description is a lot less common, a smaller land-dwelling creature with a big head and humanoid legs. It's said to be pale blue with a big slit mouth and either small or gaping eyes. In 2007, there was a very interesting post made on the Japanese forum 2channel. According to the post, a whale research ship spotted this giant creature near their vessel off the Antarctic coast. The crew initially thought it was a submarine, but when they got closer, it vanished under the waves. Then in 2005, some folks claimed Google Earth caught a glimpse of what they thought was a Ningan in the Southern Ocean. Skeptics argued it was just an iceberg that sort of looked like a sea monster, but then there's the 2010 Enoshima Aquarium incident. The aquarium had posted a video to YouTube with footage of the deep ocean, and towards the end, several viewers spotted what looked like this eerie thing. It almost looked like a creature with a big smiling mouth and little eyes. A lot of commenters said it looked a lot like depictions of the Ningan. The aquarium later said it was just an unusual rock formation with sponges making up what looked like eyes, but some still find the footage undeniably creepy and even think there could be more to this video than the aquarium is letting on. As always, what do you all think? Let us know down in the comments. I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's about mysterious ancient artifacts that scientists just can't quite explain. Click the video now to find out more. What are you waiting for? See you guys in the next video.